Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on Crafts with Kat. In the last video you guys helped me pick out which logo to use for my channel, and the second one was the one that got the most votes, so I left that one as my picture. If you haven't seen that video, I will put it in the recommended section and in the description box. So if you haven't commented which one you like, you go ahead and do that now and I will count you with the rest of the votes. Also, if you're new to my channel, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any of my content, and like this video if you enjoy it. Now, on to the good stuff. This week I wanted to do something fun. Not a small DIY project, but a big one. My dad is a carpenter and he has taught me a bunch of stuff over the years about how to work with wood. This is not me claiming whatsoever that I know everything, because I don't. I'm a beginner. But I wanted to give it a try because, I don't do it so often, so when you're learning a new skill, you only get better, so time to start. Today, I'm making a shelving unit. If you watch the intro to my video, you know what it looks like. But the process is still fun, so keep watching. So first things first, I went to Lowe's and I picked up some stuff, and here's what I got. I got 9 pieces of wood that were 2 feet by 4 inches by 2 inches, and then I got 4 pieces of wood that were 4 feet by 6 inches by 2 inches. While I was at Lowe's, I also picked up some stuff that would help me with the building process. I got wood glue, the kind that my dad said was the best, which was Tide Bond 3 Ultimate Wood Glue. It was really the ultimate wood glue. I got sandpaper that was 120 grit, and I got 2 sanding sponges, but they weren't really that good. I also got super glue in case I needed any. And as soon as I got home, I started to work on this new project, and I figured it would be a nice surprise for my dad, so I didn't show him anything I bought, and I kept everything in my room. I started with using the sanding sponges, and I sanded down all 9 pieces of the smaller wood. And I also took off the staple tags with my handy dandy stapler remover. And I also made sure to smooth out any of the edges, take out any splinters so that I wouldn't get hurt. Most of the splinters I just took out of my hand, but there were a few that actually came out of the wood. I also had gotten a burn a few days ago, and when the sawdust went into it, I just had I stubbed my pinky toe kind of moment, but it was okay. So I sanded everything down, and I used the sanding sponges with the smaller pieces of wood because they seemed rougher, but as I said before, the sanding sponges weren't that much help. I sanded them again with the sanding paper, but that was after I glued them together. I learned from my mistakes with the smaller pieces of wood, and with the big pieces of wood, I only used the sanding paper for that, and that part actually came out a lot better than I was expecting. It was very rough to begin with, but very smooth afterward. There was only one really rough one, which came out of the big pieces, but a bunch of rough ones from the smaller pieces, so I sanded those a lot more, and I put them in the bag when I was putting everything together. I had to clean up my desk a bunch of times as I moved from one thing to another. Keeping the pieces still was honestly a bit of a struggle, but it was fine overall. Next, I did the gluing, and when it came to the gluing portion, I glued 3 of the smaller pieces of wood together at a time, and I held them there for a bit so they wouldn't move around much, and tried to keep the edges straight. I used a small ruler so that, they wouldn't be too far off of a straight path. And then I used duct tape to hold them in place, and I did that for all of the smaller pieces to make in total 3 shelves. For the big pieces of wood, I glued 2 pieces together at a time, and at that point I ran out of duct tape, and the only thing I had left to use was masking tape. But I used all of that and I still ran out, so I had 1 piece left of duct tape, and that was the final thing I put for the big pieces of wood to tape them together. And I also held those together for a little bit longer than the smaller ones, because they're really big. I held them together, and as I went along, I tried to do the glue in different ways to see what would work better for next time. And I learned that if you do one straight line across the edge and then rub it with your finger, it holds a lot better and a lot closer together than if you do squiggles with the wood glue. I let them dry for about half a day. When the smaller ones were ready, I sanded them again with the sanding paper instead of the sanding sponges, because again they weren't really that good, and the sanding paper was a lot better. And at last, after I sanded everything down, they were really smooth and and then I used a big paintbrush to get any of the sawdust that was left in the crevices between the two pieces of wood, or between the other two pieces of wood. The next thing I did was painting, and I really got into this part because I love painting. I found this canister of white paint in the basement that was left over from when my parents remodeled the living room, and I used that paint for all three of the shelves. I had a paint roller too, so it made things go a lot faster than I thought they would, but before I used the paint roller, I used normal paintbrushes to get the crevices and indents in the wood, and then I went over it a few times with the roller. I used another paintbrush to stir the paint before I used it, and I also used it to control how much paint got onto the roller. So I would dip it completely in at first, and then I used a paintbrush to remove any excess paint that was left on the roller. I did 2 coats, and then I let the top side of all 3 shelves dry, and then I went over them again once more, and then I let them dry again. Next I did the same for the back side, and they were looking pretty good at the end. While I did the last coat of the back side, I also made sure to get all the sides and put a little extra coat on each of the sides so it looked better, because that was the side that was going to face the front. Lastly, I did one last coat of paint using a paintbrush to get any and all spots that were not perfect. For the big pieces, I waited extra long before I painted them because I wanted them to be super duper strong so I wouldn't mess them up. I wanted to show you guys every part of the painting, so I did the ends first and then the middle. I used a paintbrush this time because I saw how much paint was taken up by the roller, and I had a rather small bottle of black paint of just 8.5 ounces, so I didn't really want to waste any. I used one of my thicker brushes though, so it wouldn't take forever. And I really took my time with this part because I wanted to get every single part, and I went through very thoroughly because I didn't want to do a second coat with the black paint, and it didn't look bad because the black paint actually had a very heavy color to it and it really shone very bright on the wood, so I didn't feel there was a need to do a second coat, and I didn't do a second coat. But I did take my very diligent time in making sure that the first coat was absolutely perfect. After a night left to dry, I laid down some newspaper across my floor and arranged 3 of the final pieces in the way that I wanted them to look. And then I took 3-inch long screws and I drilled in from the outside of the wood to the inside to the smaller pieces of wood. I did 2 per side per shelf, and I painted the outside of the screws black so they would blend in. That's all. Thank you so much for watching, and follow for more content and like this video if you enjoyed it.